Congratulations.
And I was about to put it in because I lost it. So,
This is before the curtain call.
scary. I just got a slime out.
Oh, congratulations. Who might be in the mirror? Let's see who's in the mirror.
Three guys, three regulars.
Three guys in the mirror.
Hang on, let me get around somebody here and we will make our way up. Very good. I'll take my picture.
Hey. Hello.
Where are we going?
Huh? Okay, that affects me now.
15.
Andrew looks good. Brittany, I love you. Am I going on this? Yeah.
Oh, you can write two back into that. Sure.
What sandwich?
That'd be the big guy and sit next to him and like make it just like make camp.
I'll go with the
And it's totally ignore everyone.
yeah. High four. See man. What?
Please remain standing for the singing of the hymn in your programs.
Forgive my class of 2008. A special welcome to President of the Board, Bob Seymour, for your fellow men, to live lives of principle and integrity. Let your lives be marked by intellectual, moral, and ethical honesty. When you look back on your lives, I pray that you will have few regrets and deep satisfaction. I ask you to go with God, to follow the Lord and keep His commands. I know that God will bless you all, and I send you off the words of 1 Corinthians 10:13. But there hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. For God is faithful, and He will not suffer you to be tempted above that which you are able, but will with the temptation make a way for you to escape. So I send you off in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, wishing for you lives of fulfillment, happiness, and great joy. And now I'd like to invite the President of the Board, Mr. Bob Seymour, to pray for us.
And some teachers that you've done with for many, many years. And for parents, there's some times of unknowns here. Many of your children will be leaving home for the first time, going to college, and there are some things that you're not going to know about. I've been through this process twice with both my children. My daughter Christina in 2001, and my son Rob in 2004. And I just want to give a little bit of word of encouragement here to parents and to students here, that this school had a major impact on both my children. Many of the decisions that they make today as adults are the result of this school and the Christian worldview that they were taught. Also, the teachers had a major impact on my children because of the hard work, the dedication, and love to a Christ-centered education. And I personally wanted to thank you for that. And I know the parents here, people love it. And I agree. And I know God truly gets His hand on it. And we look forward to some great things to come. I'd like to leave you with a verse from Proverbs 3:5 as an encouragement for both the parents and the students. And this is a very common verse, but I think it's appropriate. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. Let's pray, please. Father in heaven, we come to you this afternoon with hearts filled with thanksgiving, first and foremost for your Son Jesus and the covenant of life we have in Him. We thank you for these young adults graduating today and the exciting new chapter in their lives they will be starting. We ask your blessing on each and every one. We thank you for this community known as CCA, the faculty, the staff, and the parents, and their commitment to teaching a Christian worldview here and at home. As we begin this commencement, we ask that you would be with us, for the honor and glory is all yours. I pray this in our Savior's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Our Valedictorian attended CCA since the 9th grade. She's a fine athlete as well as a scholar. She's a student mentor, National Honor Society inductee. Amy will attend Houghton College to study education. It is my pleasure to invite Amy Steicher, Valedictorian for the class of 2008, to address us now.
Members of the board, head of school Mrs. Lawrence, commencement speaker, faculty, parents and families, friends, and fellow classmates, good afternoon. On behalf of the senior class of 2008, I welcome all of you to our commencement ceremony. I would like to thank the board and Mrs. Lawrence for your passion for this school, your love for the students, and your desire to serve the Lord. To the teachers, thank you for your perseverance with our class and your willingness to go the extra mile in order to help us. Whether it be staying after to help us understand a concept, supporting us in our fundraisers for the Dominican Republic, or just setting a Christ-like example, you have been there to help us grow, both academically and spiritually. It was very evident at the senior chapel service the vital and influential role our families have played in our lives. I thank the families of the graduates for the support and encouragement, as well as the discipline, which has allowed us to make it to this milestone. But today is a day to honor the graduates, and most of the acknowledgement we receive today will be for our academic achievements of passing courses and exams. This is important and deserves to be recognized. But on this day to honor the graduates, I want to share with you a little more about how this class has impacted the school beyond the academic realm. Sitting beside me is a tremendous group of young men and women whom I have grown to love and appreciate. Their love for God, love for life, and love for each other has personally influenced my life and my relationship with others and with God. One unique quality of this class is the fun-loving attitude. A way that this is often expressed is through randomly breaking out in song. And I would have to say, it usually sounds incredibly good. Some of the favorite choruses over the years have been Lean on Me, My Girl, Hey Jude, Oh Lord How Majestic, and Swing Low Sweet Chariot. On the bus ride to the village in the Dominican Republic, the chorus students were singing Oh Lord How Majestic, which they learned for the spring concert. The Dominican pastor who was traveling with us was so impressed that he asked them to sing it for the people in every village and orphanage we went to. Another example of the exuberant, joyful attitude of the graduating class that I believe will be sorely missed here at CCA is the capability to make a game or activity out of anything in order to prevent boredom. Nearly everywhere we go, including the hallways until we get yelled at, the lunch tables outside, and even the airport at 4 a.m., you can be certain that a soccer ball will come out, a CCA circle will form, and the ball will be kicked and jogged amongst everyone. Another game that's developed involves tossing stones using a point system based on where the stone lands. But not only can our class sing and have fun, but we are also able to get the job done. It may not get done until the last minute. Actually, it probably won't get done until the last minute. But it will get done, and for the most part, it will be done well. Whether it's a chapel, a fundraiser, or a group project for our class, we always seem to be pulling everything together at the last possible second. But because of each of our distinct talents and our ability to work together, we were always able to accomplish the goal. One of the best examples of this was one morning in the Dominican Republic when we were asked to make 400 sandwiches before we left for our village on the garbage dump. With some putting bread on the table, others spreading butter, some putting the meat on, others unwrapping and putting the cheese on, and the rest screaming, "Más pan," which means more bread in Spanish, we had all 400 sandwiches put together in about 20 minutes. But of all the influences our class has had on the school, the greatest has been the impact of our class on each other, especially with regard to our relationships with Jesus Christ. Before we left for the Dominican, we each shared our testimony with each other. About 75% of the graduates, including myself, shared that the school, and in particular our classmates, had positively influenced our relationship with Christ. Though most of us never realized it, our daily actions and words have been making an impact on each other and pushing each of us to consider where we were in our relationship with Christ. I challenge you to continue to be an influence for Christ. We may not realize it, but we are constantly having an impact on people, whether we are young or old, the new man on campus or the senior, the teacher or the student. Our actions and words are being seen and evaluated by others. If we are constantly having an influence on others, why not make it an influence for Christ? Matthew 5:13 and 16 say, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." God has called all Christians to live a life that will draw others unto Him. My hope and prayer for this graduating class is that we would allow God to use us, and that our daily actions and words would be a witness for Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Remember what Balak, king of Moab, counseled, and what Balaam, son of Beor, answered. Remember your journey from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the righteous acts of the Lord. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Also Proverbs 16, 1 through 3. To man belongs the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the reply of the tongue. All a man's ways seem innocent to him, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and your plans will succeed. Thank you.
A year ago, I had the honor of being invited to an EduNations gathering and heard the moving testimony of our commencement speaker. I thought he would be an excellent person to inspire this year's graduates. He kindly accepted my invitation, and now I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Rick Kennedy, our commencement speaker. Rick and his wife, Christine, have 3 children. His 2 oldest children are Elise, who just graduated from Wake Forest University and will be attending law school at UB this fall, and John, who will be a junior at Virginia Tech this fall. Elise and John were members of CCA's Ski Club during their high school years. Rick and Christine's youngest child is Mabinti, who they adopted from an orphanage in the war-torn country of Sierra Leone in West Africa, the poorest country on the planet. Rick is a graduate of the State University of New York at Buffalo, where he graduated with a Juris Doctorate, magna cum laude. He's partner in the Hudson Ross Law Firm, where he has extensive experience for the past 24 years in environmental law and laws governing the ethical conduct of lawyers. He sits on its board of directors and is the firm's Assistant General Counsel for Loss Prevention Partner. He has lectured before state and local audiences on environmental law and legal ethics. Rick's professional associations include the New York State Business Council's Environmental Committee and Environmental Law Subcommittee, and the American Bar Association section of Natural Resources, Energy, and Environmental Law. His community activities include being a member of the board of directors and the executive committee of the Crackburn Golf Club, and being a founding member of the board of directors of EduNations Incorporated. EduNations' mission is motivated by compassion for the least of these across the continent of Africa, to connect resources from affluent societies with the needs of the poorest in the world, to provide education, opportunity, and hope. EduNations now oversees 2 primary schools in Sierra Leone, which together educate 500 children. 2 more schools, a junior secondary school for grades 7 through 9, and another primary school are being built. By this fall, EduNations, in partnership with donors in North America and educators in Africa, will be igniting hope for nearly 1,000 children. Rescuing one child improves a community, which improves a nation, creating a cycle of hope, not despair. By helping to educate them today, they create a brighter future for the nations of tomorrow. It is my pleasure and honor to present to you Mr. Rick Kennedy.
Thank you very much. President Zima, other members of the board, head of school, Mrs. Lawrence, faculty and staff of CCA, families and friends of the class of 2008, and most especially to the class of 2008 itself. Thank you very much for this honor and privilege to be able to speak to you today. I must start by confessing that this is the very first commencement address I have ever delivered. I suspect it might be the last. And I must confess that when Mrs. Lawrence first asked me 18 months ago if I would speak today, my first thought was, what in the world are you doing asking me to speak to these students on such an important occasion? I concluded fairly quickly that her asking had absolutely nothing at all to do with any of those credentials that she read in introducing me. Because those are all accidental things. And I'm quite certain that today of all days, she would prefer that I speak to her students about essential things. And the only credentials I have for speaking of essential things to these young men and women are the mercy and the grace and the goodness that God has poured out in my life. So this afternoon, knowing that I am breaking every commencement speaker convention, I intend to share briefly with you part of my personal testimony, and then share 3 pieces of advice with you that I hope you will find beneficial, praying that you won't be disappointed that I haven't spent this time urging you to dream big dreams and live big lives, which I'm sure you intend to do anyway. My testimony begins when I was a boy. When I was 8 years old and my little sister was 4, our mother died. She died from leukemia. It was the same disease that had killed my older sister just a few years before my mother had passed. Both my mom and my sister had been very sick for a long time. My father had no health insurance, and so when the girls died, he was very deeply in debt. That financial burden got worse right away. The same week my mom died, the business where my father worked closed, and he lost his job, and he couldn't find work for a long time. He had no way to support us, so we moved in with my mom's mom and dad into a tiny 2-bedroom house on Buckeye Avenue. They didn't have much. My grandfather was a custodian in a factory. We had lived there just a couple months. One morning, my granddad was teaching me how to tie a necktie because it was picture day at school, when he suffered a massive stroke and died at my feet on the kitchen floor. I do not know how my father and my grandmother provided for us. I suspect we were on public assistance. I know that we were very, very poor. But after a time, my father found work, and after he went back to work, he met a woman and fell in love and remarried. And when he remarried, he decided that we would put our old life completely behind us. That meant that we had no further contact with my mom's mom and sisters, or with anybody in my father's extended family. Those were relationships that my father found far too painful to re-engage. The net effect of that was that my little sister and I were isolated in a new home with our stepmom. My stepmom was a very troubled lady, and she mistreated my sister. So that when I was 17 and my little sister was 13, she overheard me daydreaming about going away to college. It was a pipe dream, because there was no money to help me go to any college, much less to go away to one of the fine universities that had accepted me. She didn't know that. She only knew that her last defense against the abuse she was suffering in her own home was about to leave. And so at 13, she ran away. And it would be more than 20 years before I learned what had become. So my testimony begins in death and in poverty, in the isolation that occurs when family is stripped away, and in the despair that sets in when a person has no hope. But this is a testimony about God's mercy and His grace, about His goodness, about His relentless love for me. Let me tell you how good God was to me. School children, friends of mine, invited me to their church and to their homes. And in church I heard the gospel preached, and in their homes I was often asked to stay for dinner, and I heard Dad say grace, thanking God for the blessings of everyday life, including the raggedy kid who had found a place at his table. And when I was in high school, classmates and teammates invited me to their churches and to their youth groups and to Young Life Club meetings. And when I was there, I heard the gospel preached, and I encountered young men and women who were not ashamed to talk to me about Jesus and about what a difference he made in their lives. One of those high school kids was a pretty and popular girl named Gail Hoppinger, who you all know as Gail Conchafter. I am still grateful. While I was in high school, a brilliant teacher taught our humanities program in a public high school using a Schofield Reference Bible as his basic text. He had persuaded the administration that he would use it to teach literature and poetry, history and politics, ethics and philosophy, knowing all along that he was delivering living water to thirsty kids. So that by the time I was a junior in high school, I had been redeemed. I graduated from high school. God provided a series of jobs that allowed me to work my way through undergraduate school. There I met this beautiful girl, Christine, who was foolish enough to marry me. When I married Chris, I was ushered into her large, loving, extended farm family. And when we were first married, she encouraged me to go to law school. I thought that was another pipe dream. I didn't think I was capable of doing that. She didn't want to hear about it. She insisted that I try, and she supported me in the trying. She literally supported me. She worked several jobs so that I could concentrate on my studies. And because I was free to do that, I got excellent grades, and because I got excellent grades, I landed a great job with the oldest and largest firm in Western New York, where I've now had the privilege of practicing for 25 years. We graduated from law school, saved a little money, bought a little house, hoped to have kids. God blessed us with Elise and JT. As Mrs. Warren said, many of you know them. They're beautiful, sweet-spirited kids. About the time that JT was born, my sister contacted me. She said that she was alive and well and living in Houston, Texas, and she wondered if I would be willing to be her brother again. God had restored her to me. When I thought about all that God had done for me, I would often ask him why he had loved me so relentlessly. And he answered the question. A phone call came to me at home one night. A fellow said his name was James Woomer, that he was my mother's uncle, that he had counseled with her when my older sister was sick and had died, that he had counseled with her in her own illness and had presided at her funeral. James Woomer was a Methodist minister. He was calling because his wife had insisted that he find me, to find out what had become of me and my sister, because you see, James Woomer and his wife, and every congregation they had served, had prayed for us for 30 years, without any word or any knowledge of how God was working. And still they prayed. And because they prayed, God's people were faithful to act. And because God's people were faithful to act, God was faithful to save 2 lost children. God had redeemed me and blessed me. And then he cascaded blessing upon blessing on me. 6 years ago, my wife and I and our 2 kids walked into church on a Sunday morning. We saw a display board of photographs of children living in an orphanage in West Africa. Our friends had been to the orphanage. They had brought the photographs home. Their plan was that they would show the photos. They would encourage people to donate money to help improve the orphanage. When we looked at the photographs, everyone in my family had their attention drawn to the picture of the same little girl. And when I looked on the photograph, God spoke to me very plainly. He asked whether I would be willing to share any part of the material prosperity that he had poured out on me so freely with her, a little girl who had nothing. He was asking whether I would share the real treasure in my life, the love of the good woman that he had given to me, the affection of my sweet children, and the family into which I had been adopted. Would I share them with her, a little girl who had no one in the world? He was asking me as plainly as he could whether I would redeem this child as he had redeemed me, and whether I was willing to make her mine as he had made me his. And so in the spring of 2003, my daughter Mabinti, whom I had apparently misplaced for a couple of years because she was living in this orphanage in Africa, was restored to her family, our family. She is an astonishing blessing, at least in part because she is a living daily reminder that our God reaches out of heaven and takes children out of the pit of hell and deposits them in paradise. That's Mabinti's testimony, and it is most assuredly mine. Now, three things that I'd like to share with you, three pieces of advice that I'd like you to take from my testimony. The first is this: when life is hard and bitter and dark, and there are times when it will be, have no doubt that God is still on the throne. Have no doubt that all things, including those brutally difficult things, those painful things, all things work according to His purpose in furtherance of His kingdom and for His glory. Have no doubt. And have no doubt that when life is hard and bitter and dark, that He wants you to come to the throne, where He will grieve with you and comfort you. He will provide for you and protect you, and He will give you hope. Have no doubt. Second, when life is good and sweet and light, do not forget that everything that makes it so, everything that makes it so, is a gift. It is a concrete expression of His grace and His mercy and His love and His goodness. Everything that makes life sweet. Cherish the gifts and honor the giver. Third, when the King offers you an audacious opportunity to serve Him, do not forget that the King expects His people to be the instruments of His compassion and mercy and love in the world. Do not forget, just as the people of the Dominican Republic will not forget any of you. And when the King offers you that opportunity to serve, have no doubt that you cannot dream a bigger dream or live a bigger life than one in service to the King. Have no doubt, and do not forget. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. You can see why I wanted him to come. You did a wonderful job today. Thank you. And now it's time to present the diplomas to our graduates. I'd like to invite the president of the board to help me make the presentations for that. Akanimo Dominic Akpan, CCA Diploma with Honors, Regents. I'd like the parents of the graduates to please stand up while each student receives his or her diploma. So Mrs. Edu. Thank you. Russell Lee Blue Eye, CCA Diploma. Castro, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Chelsea Abigail Clocker, CCA Diploma with Honors, Regents. Brittany Lee Cole, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Alicia Marie Fairclough, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. J. Michael Friedman, CCA Diploma. Kurt Peter Froese, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Kristen Marie Gans, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Lisa Marie Heath, CCA Diploma with Merit. She also has Regents. I forgot to read it. That's what the hug was all about. Kyla Lynn Hosvar, CCA Diploma with High Honors, Regents. Christina Ann Laganor, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Timothy Jordan McAllister, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Meredith Patricia McLaughlin, CCA Diploma with High Honors, Regents. Andrew Bradley Moser, Valedictorian, CCA Diploma with High Honors, Regents. Daniel Joseph Perfetto, CCA Diploma. Joseph Paul Richardson, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Andrew Robert Shannon, CCA Diploma with High Honors, Regents. Anna Rose Smith, CCA Diploma. Catherine Carol Smith, CCA Diploma with Merit, Regents. Amy Lynn Steicher, Valedictorian, CCA Diploma with High Honors, Regents. Ashley Marie Tom, CCA Diploma. Sarah Elizabeth Wade, CCA Diploma with Honors, Regents. Joseph John Ward, CCA Diploma. Thank you, Mr. Zima. I'm now inviting the president of the class to have his class turn their tassels. Pleasure to present to you the alumni of CCA, the class of 2008. Let's give them a hand. You may be seated. Andrew Moser is a very special young man. About 3 years ago, Andrew sat with me and his parents in my office and expressed a desire to attend CCA. He assured me he would be paying for his own tuition. I was impressed and a little worried. I had no cause, however, to be anxious. Andrew not only worked hard at school and at work, he played sports, served as a prefect, was inducted into the National Honor Society, and won first place in his class. Andrew will attend Notre Dame University. I have great pleasure in inviting the valedictorian, the class of 2008, to address us.
Parents, relatives, friends, teachers, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mrs. Lawrence. I would like to begin by thanking you for being here this afternoon. Your presence here today means so much to us, just as your presence and influence in our lives have meant so much. We would not be where we are today without every single one of you. To our parents, grandparents, and other relatives, thank you for fulfilling the responsibility that God has given to you and treasuring each of us as a gift from God. Thank you for caring enough to send us to a Christian school where we've been taught to live in the love and fear of the Lord. Thank you for the sacrifices that you have so willingly made to provide us with this opportunity. We owe each one of you a great debt of gratitude. You have been our role models, our examples, a source of wisdom and direction when we needed guidance. And most of all, you have loved us unconditionally. I've spent nearly every day of the last 3 years with this group, and I've realized that all of you must possess incredible patience and love. You've been our greatest supporters and encouragers, always instilling confidence and never bringing doubt. Whether in sports or academics or other pursuits, you have never led us to believe that anything but success could wait just around the next turn, and you have pushed us to make it there. Thank you for your support. I've seen incredible potential in every one of my classmates, and I believe that you have fostered these abilities and prepared us to achieve success in college and beyond. I can only pray that our lives reflect the training that we have received. I know that I speak for the whole class in saying thank you from the bottom of our hearts. To the CCA administration, the board, and Mrs. Lawrence, thank you for your tireless efforts in serving the Lord and this school. Your vision is a great one, and the Lord is going to do great things for Christian Central Academy through your willing service. I would like to specifically thank you for deciding to make the senior trip a missions trip. When we first received the news that our vacation was being turned into a missions trip, we were strongly opposed. We believed that the senior trip was our time, a chance to have fun, go to Disney World, and just relax. Right up to the day of departure, many of us were still set against the whole idea. But the Lord worked mightily in our hearts on that trip. I know that the things we saw will never leave us, and that we were truly changed through our experiences. I also know that I will never forget the little children that we held and played with, and I have no doubt that we received so much more than what we gave to them. The Lord truly bonded our class into a family during that week, and molded our character to be a little more like His. Thank you for making that decision on our behalf. None of us would ever trade our experience in the Dominican Republic for any other senior trip. To the teachers, I don't know where to start. As many of you look at us now, you probably find it hard to believe that we could give anyone a hard time. I'd just like to think that we were the class that strengthened our teachers' prayer lives. But we are truly indebted to each of you who taught us. Thank you for your patience and perseverance in instructing us. We were unruly at times and energetic all the time, but I know that some of you look forward to having our class during the day. There's no denying the fact that we prefer fun to work, but you taught us to strike a balance between the two. We've learned so much during our years here, and not only about academics. We've learned what it means to make Jesus Christ a part of your everyday life, and having a relationship that moves beyond words into action. We've learned how to love those who may not deserve it at times. And of course, we've learned that the dress code follows closely behind the golden rule in the Ten Commandments. In everything that you've done for us, from extra academic help to college recommendation letters, we've seen how much you truly care for us and want us to succeed. We hope that we've made you proud, and that our lives are testimony to all of you who have done so much to mold us into godly young men and women. And now, I would like to tell you a little bit about the greatest class that a senior could ever ask for. Seated here are 23 of the most unique, opinionated, diverse individuals that you could ever hope to find. I know that many doubted that we would ever make it to this day. We have lost a few along the way, but to have each of us up here is truly a testimony to God's grace. The struggles that we've together overcome define the character of this class, a group with whom I'm honored to identify myself. We have a certain flair for overcoming the odds. In the 3 years since I entered this incredible group, I've witnessed many feats of creativity and even genius, especially as the deadline approached. Our intense aversion to preparation created many delicate situations. One example stands out in my mind. Every year at CCA, each class is expected to conduct a chapel service on a Tuesday. During our sophomore year, our date of presentation was quickly approaching. Many of the other classes had their programs planned weeks in advance, but not us. Who needs to prepare, we said. I believe that we began planning for that Tuesday's chapel on Monday? Not exactly a formula for success, but that's how our class rolls. And I think it must be noted that after our chapel, many said that ours was the best sophomore chapel in recent memory. Teachers, I must apologize for your gray hair. We take full responsibility. And now to my class. 3 years ago, when I walked in these doors for my first day at CCA, I was nervous and I was scared. I didn't know anyone, and it seemed like all of you had known each other forever. You were a tight-knit group even back then, and I wondered how I was going to fit into that circle that CCA kids always seem to make. But each of you welcomed me into the class and made me feel as if I'd been here all along. Before I knew all of you, I could have never imagined that I would create such special friendships at TCA. We've truly become a family, and it has been incredible to see how God has bonded us over these last years. We've seen each other at our best and our worst. We've had some disagreements, including one serious enough to call for a meeting of man court. But we've had so many good times as well. And through it all, we've learned how to love and appreciate people for who they really are. I truly thank the Lord for placing me into such an incredibly unique and special group of people. I could never ask for better friends. But now comes a difficult time when our paths diverge. We have to leave the safe haven of CCA and the comfort of friends we've come to love and trust so much, and step outside into a big, intimidating world. But I'm not worried. All of you have the talents and training that you need to succeed. But most of all, you have godly character instilled in your hearts. Don't ever let that go. This class has so much potential, and to whom much is given, much is expected. I believe that God has a great purpose in mind for every single one of us, and the life He has is not a boring one. Jesus said that He came to give life, and life abundantly. This class's most outstanding attribute is, without question, the joy of the Lord. So, 2 little pieces of advice. First, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and don't lean on your own understanding. Only then can you persevere through life's many trials and achieve the purpose that God has for you. And second, no matter what turns your life takes, don't ever lose the joy that God has placed within your hearts. Class of 2008, the halls we have walked will never be the same because of us. Let's make it our goal to always have that impact, to leave a Christ-like legacy wherever we go. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Andrew. Would you please join us in singing the hymn on your program, Onward Christian Soldiers? Please stand.
All one glory.
to present some flowers to Mrs. Moyer. Thank you very much. Mr. Rhonda Moyer attended CCA and for 11 of the 13 auctions put on by CCA has been the auctioneer. This generous voluntary service has helped CCA to raise almost $2 million in 10 years. We cannot imagine what we would do at our auction. Fails to remind the audience that it's just, and it reads, Christian Central Academy Lifetime Service Award. The Christian Central Academy community honors Randy Moyer in grateful recognition of his many years of selfless service as the official auctioneer for the annual Christian Central Academy Cornucopia auction from 1998 to the present. Please be seated.
Oh, you guys see one too, right? CCA? That's what I got. I failed the chemistry, but ends up F. Yes. And that. How do you number?
Are we going to throw up our hats or something?
Joey Ward's over there.
And you can come down around the other way. You guys line up on the front steps. You guys line up on the front steps here. Come on, make your way down.
Thank you.
See, I'm gonna have donuts. I feel pretty
Don't